Well, I'm back, and for the record, whenever I do a double or triple program, what I do first is that I always resync the game and the commentary together so that the file is ready to be uploaded. So for example, right now, part 84 is ready to be uploaded, but I'm going to upload it at the same time as this video. So right now I could go to the outdoors part of Mount Pyre, but right now I'm going to give my Latias some PP back again because it was once again running pretty low, and after that, yeah, I'm gonna head back to the outside of Mount Pyre where we're going to have some storyline progression for a nice change of pace. The last time we had any of that was back at the Weather Institute when I encountered Team Aqua, and we're going to fight Team Aqua again. Yeah, when I said the teams were rather poorly balanced in the game, that's basically what I meant. And yeah, I know that there's a case that could be made for the teams being appropriately balanced, because it made no sense for Team Aqua to be at the top of Mount Chimney in Sapphire, and it made no sense for Groudon to be awakened at the bottom of the sea in Ruby. But at the same time, I don't know, I could have put Team Magma in the Weather Institute and it would have worked just as well. Or remember that grunt I dubbed Jack Spearow at the beginning of the LP? Well, he could have been a Magma grunt even at the price of nixing his appearance at the Slateport Museum. But that's enough talk about the evil teams, because I know we are going to get a lot of wild speculation regarding that particular aspect with Black and White, especially considering the whole Ubers being in the wrong version deal. So I guess until we get more information, all we can do is mindlessly speculate. Or there are going to be one team, maybe two teams, like in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. I'm thinking it's possible that there could be two teams, because space and time aren't exactly antagonizing forces. Land and sea are. Light and darkness are. That's assuming the theme for Black and White is light and darkness, but it's looking pretty good right now. But look at little old me once again rambling on aimlessly. No, what I wanted to talk about today before Reshiram and Zekrom threw a wrench into things was that Salamence suspect test that I mentioned a few videos ago, and what I forgot to mention was a very legitimate, not a complaint, but rather a fear that this would mark the beginning of a pattern where we'd ban one Pokemon, then immediately find another suspect to test, and ban this one, and then repeat the process ad nauseam, or however it's supposed to be pronounced in English. I can pronounce it in French, but I don't know if those kind of Latin expressions have different pronunciations in French and English and Latin, maybe, but this wasn't the point I was trying to make either. Man, I suck at sticking to the subject. So yeah, this, I think, is a very legitimate fear. And while some might say that Smogon is better than that, I still think there should be room for worrying. Not a whole lot, but still a little bit. After all, it's not like there's no precedent in that spiral of banning, or in the precedent I'm talking about, the spiral of unbanning. Remember in the old underused tier that used to be dominated by Pokemon that had no business there back then, like Clefable and Swellow? And I'm not saying those Pokemon have no room in today's underused environment, but back then they were simply too strong. So instead of banning those problematic guys, what did they do? They unbanned some more, and Steelix completely dominated the place for a few months, and after that they unbanned some more stuff to deal with Steelix instead of banning Steelix, and then the likes of Clefable and Swellow, and suddenly I'm at the top of Mount Pyre, and there are a few Aqua grunts to deal with, and this Aqua grunt here, you see to the right there's an area that he was blocking, but since I made him go one step forward, he's not blocking anymore. Well, there's probably an item there. There's definitely some tall grass, but there's probably an item there too, so I'm going to be checking it out when I deal with this guy. But But yeah, it was this whole spiral of unbanning that made people realize, wow, the underused metagame is going straight to hell. And that's when the revamp happened. They took everything that wasn't overused into one big metagame, singled out the things that were too dominant, and made the borderline tier into an underused ban list instead of, you know, something that's completely arbitrary. And by doing that, they did away with a tradition that was going on for 12 years, because before then, the difference between borderline and underused was sort of shady at best, actually. And there was no never used tier in the first 2 generations either. It was invented in Generation 3 after there were, you know, so many new Pokemon that the underused tier would be like so heavily populated. And right now we're sort of facing the same thing with the never used tier, where it's so populated that you get things like, well, I don't have any examples in mind right now, but there are things that are never used right now that might have actually been borderline like 2 or 3 years ago. Ah, yes, Team Aqua Grunt sent out a Zubat. You know, I was reading a top 10 on GameFAQs the other day, and usually those things tend to suck, but there was this really good one a few days ago about you know, a top 10 of the worst thought out plans in gaming, and Team Rocket was among those top 10 bad plans. And the idea was that, okay, they're trying to take over the world with a Pokemon, with strong Pokemon, and yet they outfit their grunts with Rattatas and Zubats and Grimers and Coughings and stuff like that, instead of, you know, using strong Pokemon that could actually do some damage. And that is a very legitimate claim, actually. There was even one item on that list that was about, you know, Mario 3. You know, when you skip all those worlds using the 2 whistles you get in World 1 to go straight to World 8, well, you're conveniently forgetting that at the beginning of the game, the purpose of the game is to defeat the 7 Koopa Kids and rescue the 7 Kings that were transformed using the wands that the Koopa Kids took from them and used against them. So you go straight to World 8, you don't rescue the Kings, you take on Bowser, but you leave the 7 Koopa Kings alive, leaving the 7 of them to possibly wreak more havoc. But who cares? You beat Bowser! You rescued Peach! The end! And yes, I'm going to try and provide a link to that top 10, put it in the movie description, but I think one game that's been overlooked in that top 10, and that would have definitely had room in the top 5, Tales of Symphonia. Now you're probably wondering what I'm talking about, but stay with me for a second, okay? In Tales of Symphonia, you've got this evil overlord ruling over not 1, but 2 worlds for 4,000 years, okay? And there's this real complicated scheme underlying all that, and nobody figures it out for 4,000 years until a ragtag group of 8 adventurers finds out about it, and they're the first ones to find out about it, and in a matter of days, the evil empire is utterly destroyed. And where was this plan completely derailed? Well, look no further than the people Mythos surrounded himself with. Ewan, traitor from day 1. Kratos, convinced by Lloyd to turn against Mythos. Rodile, obvious traitor. He wants to blow up the Tower of Salvation, Crucius's main base, with the mana cannon in order to become the new evil overlord. Magnus and Kvar, too busy trying to stab Pronema in the back to do anything else. And yeah, speaking of Pronema, she was the only one who stayed loyal to Mythos until the end, and he kills her himself. The only one that actually wanted to work for him, and he kills her himself. So yeah, is anyone really surprised that Mythos lost in the end? And speaking of losing, I'm about to lose my sanity with all those stupid calls. So I'm just gonna check if there's an item here. Yeah, there's a rare candy, alright. So next time, I finish Mount Pyre and we progress the story. Promise.